Tired of your job? Well, imagine diving into sunken submarines or pedaling through a battlefield. In World War I, soldiers took on some of the most dangerous jobs ever. From tin openers retrieving secrets from wrecks to bicycle battalions racing through enemy fire. Ready to see the toughest jobs in history? Let's dive in. Sappers, tunnelers. Picking the worst job in World War I is like choosing the worst way to stub your toe. Every option is painful. But if one role truly stands out, it's the life of a tunneler. Picture this. You're not just fighting in the mud above ground. Oh no. You're digging through it below, carving through tunnels under enemy lines. And you're doing this so you can plant massive bombs. Some so powerful they could be heard in London when they went off. Yeah, London. Now imagine doing all this while hunched over in a pitch-black tunnel. Your only tools, a shovel, and sheer determination. Claustrophobia? Check. Fear of sudden collapse? Double check. As Peter Barton details in his book Beneath Flanders Fields, tunnelers worked with the constant fear of a sudden collapse or worse, being buried alive. And here's the part that makes your palms sweat. It all had to be done in absolute silence. If the enemy heard even a scrape, they'd plant countermines to blow you sky high. Lieutenant Colonel John Norton Griffiths, a key figure in British tunneling efforts, once described it as the most silent, strangest war of all. A blindfold fight where the enemy's breath could be just feet away. One wrong move and it's game over. No dramatic farewell. Just a sudden end. And as if that wasn't terrifying enough, sometimes your tunnel would accidentally meet theirs. That wasn't a hey neighbor moment. It was a brutal pitch-black brawl with shovels, picks, and fists. In a war full of nightmares, the life of a tunneler was like living your worst fears underground. Poison gas handling. Handling poison gas in World War I wasn't just a job. It was a death sentence. Imagine being tasked with loading, transporting, and deploying weapons that could wipe out entire battalions. And no, they didn't have modern safety gear, just flimsy masks that barely offered protection. Working with mustard gas or chlorine meant that even a tiny leak could be deadly. In The Poison War by Gail Brabon, it's noted that handlers often suffered from burns, blistered lungs, and blindness. A shift in the wind could mean you'd be choked on the very gas you'd unleashed. Beyond the physical dangers, the psychological toll was immense. Chemical warfare wasn't just about killing, it was designed to inflict agony. One gas handler recalled in an interview, you'd be walking along, and boom, suddenly you're fighting to breathe. The moral burden of knowing they were releasing weapons that caused horrific suffering weighed heavily on them. It was a job that blurred the line between soldier and executioner, forcing them to confront the horror of their role. It wasn't just a dangerous job, it was a battle with their own conscience. Aerial observers and pilots. Flying might sound like a thrill, but for aerial observers and pilots in the early days of World War I, it was more like riding a flimsy wooden crate with wings. These brave souls took to the skies in frail planes, made of wood, canvas, and wire. No bulletproof cockpits or parachutes here. Their job? To scout enemy positions and direct artillery fire, often flying low and slow, making them easy targets for both ground, fire, and enemy pilots. The life expectancy for these early aviators? Roughly 3 weeks from the moment they first took off. With no radio communication, pilots had to scribble notes or drop messages by hand, adding to the chaos of aerial combat. One wrong move, a jammed engine, or a lucky enemy shot, and they were going down, often with no way to escape. In the book Aces Falling by Peter Hart, he describes the grim reality. Most new pilots didn't survive their first month in the air. Even those who made it past that point faced a constant game of cat and mouse with death. It wasn't just a dangerous job. It was a near-suicide mission every time they strapped into those rickety planes. Runners. Of all the jobs in the infantry, few were as perilous as that of the runner. As World War I veteran Lieutenant Alan L. Dexter put it in a 1931 newspaper article, the runner's job was the hardest and most dangerous. With the runner, it was merely a question of how long he would last before being wounded or killed. These brave souls were tasked with carrying vital messages between units on the front lines, often navigating through treacherous terrain while under constant fire. Runners had no choice but to sprint across open fields, dodging enemy bullets and sometimes even scrambling through barbed wire and shell craters, all while clutching critical orders that could change the course of a battle. And here's a quick break. If you've ever dashed across the office trying to meet a deadline, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more wild history. Okay, back to the battlefield. Every second counted for these runners, and their life expectancy could be as short as a few days to a week, depending on the ferocity of the fighting. The psychological strain was crushing, as they knew each run could be their last. These unsung heroes of the trenches were the literal lifelines of the war effort, balancing courage and vulnerability with every dangerous dash through the chaos. Medics and field surgeons. If you thought running into the chaos of battle was brave, try being a medic or field surgeon during World War I. These unsung heroes were the frontline saviors, rushing into hellish conditions to save lives, often armed with nothing but a first aid kit and sheer determination. Their job was to stabilize wounded soldiers and perform emergency surgeries amidst the chaos of explosions and gunfire. The conditions they faced were nothing short of horrific, operating in makeshift hospitals or even on the battlefield itself. They dealt with severe injuries that were often infected and grotesque. Many medics had to make life-or-death decisions in seconds, deciding who to save and who would have to wait, if they could wait at all. The stress of such choices took a heavy toll on their mental health, often leading to PTSD long before the term was even coined. Their life expectancy was also alarmingly low. Many medics were killed or wounded themselves within a few months of deployment. Tin openers, the submarine wreck raiders. Now picture this. It's World War I and your job is to open cans. But not just any cans, enemy submarines. Wrecked and lying at the bottom of the ocean, these divers, known as the tin openers, were tasked with prying open twisted U-boat hulls to retrieve vital military secrets. Submarines weren't just underwater killers. They were floating treasure chests of maps, orders, and advanced technology. As Middlebrook points out, these divers had to navigate jagged wrecks, often rigged with booby traps left by the Germans. But it wasn't just the physical danger they faced. If something went wrong, their families were offered compensation through a debt gratuity, around £500 back then, which equates to around $60,000 today. While it sounds substantial, the price tag on their lives was far less than the danger of these operations. The bicycle battalions. Now let's talk about one of the most deceptively dangerous jobs in World War I, the bicycle battalions. Yep, soldiers on bicycles pedaling straight into war. Sounds quaint, right? Think again. These men weren't just out for a leisurely ride. They were sent into the thick of battle with rifles on their backs and tires beneath them. Bicycles were fast, quiet, and could sneak through terrain where tanks and trucks couldn't tread. But here's the catch. They had to do this in full view of enemy fire, often with no cover but the speed of their legs. According to Tate's study, these troops were tasked with scouting enemy positions, delivering crucial messages, and even launching surprise attacks, all while dodging bullets, artillery, and landmines. Imagine speeding through a battlefield where one wrong turn could land you in the sights of a sniper or in the middle of a bombed-out trench. These soldiers could cover up to 70 miles a day, but every mile was a gamble. The lightweight bikes didn't offer much protection. If you enjoyed today's dive into the most dangerous jobs of World War I, hit like and subscribe and ring the notification bell. Stay curious and brave and keep exploring history with us.